Just be there for your kid. If he's got a problem, talk to him about it. Don't let him try and do things on his own. Like, get through everything on his own. You got to be there for him. Even if they don't want to talk, you still got to try. Don't give up.
We live in an era where drugs and alcohol are all too available to teenagers. This is a reality that can and must be changed. Recent state of Illinois statistics reveal that underage drinking in Iroquois County is higher than other counties. This means we all have work to do to help our teens learn how to cope with peer pressure, fitting in and curiosity or boredom. Some kids are able to say no. Others have a difficult time with no. Together, we can help our teenagers to say yes to safe and healthy choices.
Your brain is always constantly growing and changing. Even when you get older, there's even new data to suggest that your brain is still changing all the time. But the most important years are, when you're younger and into your adolescence, because that's when the brain develops the most. Well, the brain is kind of bathed in your blood, and then this fluid which protects the brain. So anytime you're drinking, the alcohol gets into that fluid which bathes the brain, so it's constantly surrounding the brain. So it's never a good idea to drink to the point where they're drunk. That's always going to affect your brain. It can directly kill the brain cells. You're kind of born with as many brain cells as you're going to have. So once it's gone, it's gone. So you're really doing permanent damage. The problem is when you're young and you're a child, your brain is very resilient, meaning there's a lot of reserve left in the brain. So someone who drinks a lot, does a lot of drugs, may not feel the long-term effects right away because their brain is still developing and it can compensate for it. The problem is if you do that chronically over a long time, your ability to buffer and to compensate goes down and down and down. So unfortunately, by the time they realize that they're having damage from the alcohol and the drugs, it's almost too late. So it's better just to avoid even getting there. I guess if I try to relate to them, I would put it something like this. Maybe you could say something like, okay, you have a phone, you've got about 10 gigabytes of data, and that's all you get for your whole life. Once it's gone, it's gone. Well, let's say every day you're only using, half a megabyte. You go and you get drunk, you lose more cells, now you've lost a gigabyte. Now you've only got 90% of your data for the rest of your life, and it has to last your whole life. I think that's a good way of thinking about it for them because you don't get those brain cells back. And then, when you get to the point, you start running out, you're like, well, I'm only 30, I've got another 50 years to live, but I only have 1 gigabyte of data. What am I going to do for those 50 years? You're really going to pay the price later, and you're really cutting off your potential. And I think if you think about it like that, you put it in terms where you can see where it's going. When you physically see it going away, it's much different than when you can't see it. Because unfortunately, you can't see the damage that you're doing. But if you make it graphic like that, I think it puts it in perspective for them.
We all have a role to play in the prevention of teen drinking. Parents, communities, schools, police departments, churches, neighbors, grandparents, everyone. Our kids are depending on us to set strong rules about drinking and using, to say no when it's easier to say yes, to talk about drinking with them often and openly, to work with your friends and neighbors to keep our kids safe. They're depending on us to keep our eyes wide open, looking closely at what they're doing, not the other way. Tough love does work. They need us to show them how to cope with the stress of teenage years, to help them make healthy choices, to choose living and themselves over peer pressure. Your kids, my kids, their kids, our kids. Together, we can.